Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel for another acrylic painting tutorial. This one is another request and photo submitted by one of my amazing Patreon members. You can find the reference photo free to download right now on Patreon. So I'm working on a 10 by 10 double primed and stretched canvas for this landscape today, and we're going to be painting beautiful Spanish moss hanging down over this nice path with some cool shadows and warm sun highlights. I'm going to be using the following colors and a large flat brush here to start. I've got titanium white, burnt sienna, dioxazine purple, light blue violet, sap green, cool lemon, neon yellow, blue turquoise, and some neon orange. I'll have everything listed below this video, and if you're not sure about what other colors you can use for alternatives in case you don't have these, just leave a comment or question below and I'll be happy to give you some alternatives. So I'm going to start by working on the background, so the sky, and I'm going to be using a little bit of blue turquoise and white for that. What I want to do first is just get my brush a little bit wet. I'm going to take some white and a little bit of blue turquoise. So I'm just going to pull them across the canvas, blending it out. We're going to make this really pretty, like robin egg blue shade. I've been really liking blue turquoise lately, and I've been trying to incorporate it more and more into my paintings. Mixed with a bit of white, or just on its own, it makes the most beautiful sky color. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going, adding a little bit of water here and there to really help pull and blend the acrylic out of my brush over the canvas. And we're going to bring this down to right about here. For the perspective in this painting, there's definitely a lower horizon. So we'll just keep filling this in the same way. A little bit of water. Okay, and then the next color I'm going to take is a little bit of light blue violet, and I'm just going to go halfway over the horizon and halfway over where the path will be. This gives us a little bit better of horizon line and kind of a division between the sky where it meets the water, because if you look really closely, and you'll see in the reference photo, right back in this section here, there's either a lake or an ocean back there. Okay, then I'll take a little bit more white. It's okay if it's tinted slightly with a bit of either of those blues. And right above where the horizon line is, I'm just gonna soften that. You know, down towards the horizon, you often get that beautiful hazy look that's just a little bit lighter in tone. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just start coming in with a little bit of grass and bushes, and I'm just going to block in the base coat with a little bit of Dioxazine purple and sap green. So we're going to come partially over the water. Okay, and then what we're going to do is come from, I just like to take a little scoop of each, and then we're going to pull out like this slightly and then veer off. So come out slightly, curve over, and then go back out with it. And again, all we're doing is just blocking in the base coat. We'll be using another brush to really make the texture and 3D look of the bushes and the plants after. And then on this side, it comes out right about here. We're gonna go narrow in here. That'll help give us a perspective that this is farther away because it gets narrower. And then we're gonna bring it out wider, right down here. So you wanna go from about the corner, you wanna bring it over about 1 inch towards the center here from the corner of the left side of the canvas on the bottom. Okay, so this is the stage we're at right now. I'm gonna rinse my brush out. Excuse me. And then the next thing I'm gonna do with a clean brush is take some white and some neon orange. Let's just take a little bit. We'll cool it down just a tad with some of that cool yellow, make more of a warm coral color here. And we're just gonna fill this in. Let me just make a little bit more. We're gonna apply the warm sunlight color first, and then we'll go over top after for our shadows. Rinse my brush out. Okay, now the next color I'm going to take without washing my brush off is a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of purple, and I'm going to mix them up here. Add a little bit of water so we get this smoky kind of plum color. And I'm just going to add it along either side of the path and the edge of the grass. And I'm going to kind of just wiggle because it's dirt and plants growing around there. So it's not really neat and tidy looking. And then I'm going to come in here from the bottom. I'm going to tap right over the corner, go over the dark green base, and then it's going to get narrower and narrower so that I'm starting off with the full width of my brush and painting that in, and then I'm going to let off and start to turn my brush so I make it narrower, and I can control that better just with the corner of my brush without having to switch over to a smaller brush. And then we'll just tap flat like this, and that'll make it look a little bit more patchy. So it looks wider here as well. Okay, now I've got a round brush, and I'm gonna add the indication of a little fence in the distance before we come in with our bushes and our tree. And I'm gonna be using this same color here, the burnt sienna, purple, and a little bit of white. And I'll just add a few little lines like this. One a little bit thicker here in the middle, and then a little railing and a board running through. The rest is going to be pretty much covered up with plants, and we won't see any more than this. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of white, the peachy tones, the purple burnt sienna mixture, and I'm just going to start kind of just adding these little dabs and taps in here to start the sunlight where the sun's hitting in a few little areas here. I'm now going to come in with a mop brush, and I'm going to start tapping in some bushes and foliage along the side. it's dry, make sure you don't get it in any water first. You just want to go directly into the paint to keep the nice poofy shape that it has, and so that you can get the right texture when you apply the paint. So I'm going to take sap green and a little bit of the yellow. Okay, so your brush will look something like this, maybe even less paint than what I've got here. And I'm just gonna tap really lightly with the tip of my brush for the shorter bushes. They're smaller back there because it's farther away, right? And then as we go along, they're gonna get a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white, tap it into that yellow, and I'll add a few areas where the light's going to be hitting them and they're going to be a lot brighter. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is start adding the tree, and I'm going to take my round brush, a little bit of water, dioxazine purple, and burnt sienna. Take a little scoop of each of those colors, and I'm going to start over here with about an inch up from the horizon line, right off the left, a little scoop. I'm going to go up and then I'm going to add a branch that veers off from here over just right off the canvas. We're going to come down in here, be really dark, and look how we pick a little bit of those greens up, and it just blends right in nicely. We're going to come down here, we're going to bring one right over. And then another branch right there. And let off on the pressure you're using just to add some smaller ones, narrower ones, or you can switch over to a liner brush if you feel more comfortable. Okay, so we've got a bigger one that goes right off the canvas at the top. And we're going to add two more main ones in between here. And they all start from here. So a little bit of pressure, push, pull, wiggle. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush and my paint. I'm going to add a few more little branches off of these ones. And then we're going to add another branch right here. It's going to be a little bit thinner. See how I'm kind of just twisting and rolling and dragging my brush? That's the easiest way to do it. You want to add those branches that have a lot of character. They tend to look like a really old tree. And then we've got some other little branches, just little ones. I'm just going to switch over to a mini mop brush and fill this patch in here with my dark base again, purple and sap green. I'm going to kind of pull and then tap. Pull, pull, kind of curve over, and then tap. Add a little bit more purple in there to make it darker. We're going to add some down here. Pick up a little bit of that neon yellow with the green. Tap a few little branches. A little bit more green. Tap, tap, tap. And then kind of pull. This one we're going to start introducing our Spanish moss hanging. They kind of just like the Spanish moss and these plants and bushes down here in the distance kind of start to blend in, and you can't really tell where they start, if they're starting from the tree or they kind of just join up. I really love that. You really, when you're working from, if you're painting plein air or working from reference photos, you really start to pay attention and look more closely at a photo than you would if you were just glancing at something. But when you're painting, you start to see, your eyes kind of start to break things down, and you're able to see more than you would otherwise. Add a little bit of few taps in here with the purple. Pick up a little bit of the green and purple again. We're going to start coming in with dark areas here. Then we'll work our way up. So I'm kind of tapping, right? Tap and then just kind of pull. And if you get your brush a little bit wet, so I just put it a little bit in the water, just the tip of it. And you can do this with a Filbert brush. You can use a fan brush. It's how you're using the brush. It's the brush technique, the tap, light little taps for the texture, and then pull for the drapey look. I love, love, love the look of Spanish moss. It's so moody. It adds a lot to a landscape. I'm going to go back over to my round brush. There's a little bit of light hitting the top of the tree branches, so I'm going to take that white and that soft peach color that I made and just run it along. Some of these areas. And I'm gonna use a Filbert brush now, and I'm gonna be adding some light, same color, peach, the yellow, orange, and white. Maybe just a little bit more. I know it'll dry darker, so I want to make sure I have enough white. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of tap in a few areas and pull, just like I did with the other brush. Using the very tip of my brush so that I can have the control that I need to keep that narrow shape. So having this light, our light highlights first will be easier to come in after with the shadowed ones. And if your paint is still wet underneath, then you might be able to do it all at once. Tap in the light and then go into the darker parts. But I do want to add a little bit of green, purple, white to make the color of the Spanish moss. So I'm going to add a little bit of this. And then work my way up to some darker tones. A bit more green, purple. And just pull and flick down, just like if you were painting waterfalls. And I'll continue over here adding some more. I want to make sure that I keep that bright white and peach showing. So you want to just kind of go inside of it and leave the outer edges the bright. And then we've got some that just get smaller and smaller, narrower. So just little gentle little sweeps pull and flick, flick. And we can see that beautiful robin eggs blue sky peeking through it all. Okay, for the next layers, I'm going to be taking a little bit more white, yellow, and orange. I'm going to add some more light, and I'll just use my little round brush, little taps and wiggles. Tap, 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 pull and flick. See, no matter what brush you use, you want to do the same thing. Tap for a little bit of the texture, and then a little pull. And if you paint them a little bit on an angle, just a little bit, you'll give that feeling of a gentle little breeze blowing. I'm just going to go across right there. While I've got these colors that I'm using, I'm going to add another layer to the highlights down below. Add a little bit more yellow this time. A little bit more yellow. This way it'll dry to a nice bright green where we need it to. Take a little bit of sap green, neon yellow, and just tap for a few leaves in here. So the next brush I'm going to be using is my number 30 Filbert brush, and I'll demonstrate how you can use one this size to tap, tap, tap down like this. And I'm going to be coming in with some dark branches. I'm going to go over the branches, the next layer of branches first, and then we're going to come in with the large Filbert brush. So a little bit of burnt sienna, sap green, and some purple will give us a nice dark color, but keep it warm at the same time. So we'll just come in here. Right over. What I'm going to do, kind of twist and roll down here. Maybe there's a few other trees back there, and just add some purple and sap green. And then come down, wiggle, wiggle, gently pull. Let me just take a little bit more purple. Make this one just a little thicker. Now with a dry Filbert brush, a large one, I'm going to take my white, purple, and green again. Come over here and mix it up. Makes a really kind of earthy clay grayish color. We just want to add a little bit of texture. So when you're going to go over some of the branches, it's going to give you that depth and the layering of some of the Spanish moss above, behind, in front. See this, a little bit more of this sap green in there. Gives you the right color. It's kind of like just a combination of all the colors together. Okay, and then I'm going to take my smaller Filbert brush, go back into my yellow, orange, and white. I'm going to use one of my really small liner brushes and add a little bit of texture on some of these. So just, I've got a really tiny liner brush here. I'm going to use more white with a little bit of that sap green, and I might need to even use more than this. And if you look closely at Spanish moss, so these ones are closest to us. That's what I want to portray here. So by adding a little bit of these little wiggles, yeah, I'm going to use a little bit more of my white peach mixture. Just wiggly little crisscrosses, super easy. You could use a longer liner brush too. Just do a little dance with your brush. We're not going to do this everywhere, right? We just want to add it to the ones that are the biggest and create that perspective that these are closer to us. Then I'm going to go back into my green. Add a few with some of the darker colors. Take a little bit of purple and green. So I'll just add a little bit more here, and then we're going to start working on the cool shadows of our path. Okay, I'm going to be using my Filbert brush again, my smaller one, and I'm going to take white, light blue violet, a little bit of purple, yeah, just a tad bit of that blue turquoise in there. Oh, that's really strong. Need to add a little bit more white, a little bit more purple. We want it to be more on the purple blue side. Okay, so I'm just going to start adding a few little lines and squiggles for the shadows, little loops. Use a little bit more purple. We're going to go slightly over the dirt and weave kind of in and around the light, the sunlight. We'll have some crisscrosses, loops. Then it's a little thicker, a little bit more solid in here. This is when it all starts to come together. This is what ties it all together for me, is the beautiful violet shadows with that peach underneath. And we're going to add a few hints of this in the tree as well. What a pretty place to go for a stroll. One last highlight. I'm just going to use my small brush, my orange, yellow, and white again, and add final highlights on some of these branches just to bring back some light, just a little bit of light hitting. Okay, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for this one today. I really loved painting this, so thanks again for all of your support on Patreon, on YouTube, and anywhere else that you follow me. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all soon in my next video. Bye!